this is Tiger. Welcome to my stream. Hey AJ, good evening to you. So nice to see you in the chat. And yes, we are going back to Manchester and the Manchester Airport Commuter DLC that was released in a bit of a bumpy release last week, and by now we had some patches and updates, and quite a lot of things are are fixed now. Grüß dich, the CD Raider. Yes, grüß dich too, to the Czech Republic. And yeah, some ant hills have been removed, some lights have been lit, and there was a bit of a confusion about what update versions are actually around. Hi Ravenslofty, hi Tiger, he says managed to be available for this stream. That is so nice to have you on the stream once more and to look at what we are doing at Manchester. Yeah, ATS, Alan Thomson Simulations debut with the Manchester Airport Commuter release, planned to be a Manchester to Crewe, did not turn out. It stops somewhere in between on the way to Crewe, but from what I've seen so far, and I played it a lot, in 10 months is Ravenslovely subscribed. Thank you so much for renewing the subscription. Yeah, from what I've seen in this DLC so far is that the scenery is actually outstanding in most parts, that the station dioramas and what you can see in the station is really lively, and it lives, and it seems like you're jumping into real life. What I also like is that you get quite a lot of different routings and runs into the yards and stuff, what is sometimes a bit neglected in other DLCs. Well, let's see, and this is what got me to the idea to have a look at the pathing at a big station like Manchester Piccadilly, and what you can actually glean from the signals that you're shown, especially the junction indicators and the theater indicators, about the pathing that your train is going to take, so that you know what speed limits you have to expect on this pathing and what switches you will be sent across, so that you know when you actually are good to accelerate and when not. I will turn on this indicator here. I got this DLC for free for being an ambassador for Dovetail Games. Nevertheless, what I tell you about it is my unfiltered opinion as always. Yeah, Manchester Airport Commuter. I still miss some of the layers, so I don't have the Cardiff route, so a couple of the sprinters, the 150 and the 153 from Cardiff, are not layering in, and I don't own the ScotRail Express Sprinter, the 158, so my timetable is a bit thinner than it can be if you own all those DLCs. Yeah, but you get 2 timetables with this DLC, a Sunday timetable that is especially without freight services, and the weekday timetable where you have the freight services in. You can see that you can actually pick 2 different Class 66. The Class 66 DB is the one that comes with the DLC, and those are the actual freight service, whereas the Class 66 EWS here is the railhead treatment train services. And Lofty says, can I redeem an external camera to judge the 323 GTO sound? Of course you can, and you will get this a lot. I don't know if you can do this in the first move that we make, because the first move is actually to show why it is so important to know your pathing and what the signals at the station are telling you. If you're not running with a HUD anyway, then you know what to expect. But if you're just running as a real driver would by the signals and by your route knowledge, then it is quite essential that you know what the signals are telling you, and we will see what the GTO is telling Lofty when we're starting our train. We're starting here with service at night, so we will not see a lot, but this is by design, because at night and at rain and poor visibility, it is even harder to see where you actually are on the track, and it is all the more important to know where you are going to, and so you can rely on the signals that you're getting. And afterward we will look at this in a presentation. So we are on a 323 hypernetworker that is supposed to take us from Manchester Piccadilly via Stockport to Alderley Edge, and it will be night 23:35. Zarif, good evening, Mr. Train Guy, and good evening to you, Zarif. Nice to have you in the chat and on the stream. So let's just get started at night at Manchester Piccadilly. There is still no way to get the safety systems on by default. The GSMR is working. We can test it. We want to operate the passenger controls in the train. Then we should use this key open here, so we have lights. Actually, there was a problem in the beginning with this DLC. That the lights shone, but they looked as if they were turned off. We have a green up there, so we don't need to set our DRA. We have the proper lights, night ahead. You can see your light configuration here. You can just make a quick check if we have taillights on. We have taillights on, yes. So this train has just come in. We are at platform 5 as it seems. Yes. Working off indicator, showing the train crew that this signal here at the very end of this long platform, where we can already see one of the theater indicators telling us F for fast, most probably, because this is telling us that we are going on the fast line. We check this on the route. We can see we're starting here at platform 5, and then we are going just straight on fast. You can see that we are moving here a bit, but to this we will get later. Bedtime for AJ. Have a great stream. Have a nice night, AJ. So we close our doors, and then we will probably stay at the external cameras to listen to the GTO sound. The thing is, we already see from the first theater indicator that we will send to the fast line, the up fast. There was a GTO for the first take at any rate. We can't go faster than 15 when leaving here. So I will go back to the external cameras and GTOs when we are actually accelerating beyond that. And now the question is, how fast can we go? Need some wipers probably. And at the moment we're starting with 15. And we are getting told we are staying on the fast line. Up fast, here is the indicator for 15. The problem is that we are supposed to go to Levenshulme and stop there. And what is the problem with that? If we look at the station layout in... This is the next station. We have a layout here where... Where is it? Here. Where the slow lanes are on the outside and the fast lanes are on the inside. So to stop at Levenshulme, we actually have to be on the slow line. And we are routed at the moment on the fast line. So at some point we will have to leave the fast line. Here is an indicator that the line speed increases to 25 as soon as the train has passed. At this signal bridge, we know that we are at up fast, just as was indicated to us, UF for up fast. We are not getting any information that we are routed out of this line, and the limit increases to 45. But we can see upcoming a green signal with a junction indicator that is sending us to the right, and now we need to have route knowledge to actually know how fast we can go on the junction and how many switches we're actually going to make, otherwise it might be really confusing. If we wait for those signs to pop up that tell us the speed on the junction, then we will probably be too late. So instead of accelerating to 45, having seen this junction signal, we needed to stay below the 25 for the junction. And since we know the layout of this station, we know that we are going across another switch, even though there was no more junction signal. And here the limit on the switch is 30. And now we end up on a line up slow. You could see it on top of this signal bridge, where we maybe have a different speed limit that is not indicated with a PSI, with a permissible speed indicator. So we need to know this limit either by heart or by looking it up somewhere, and typically we would need to know this by heart. Somewhere here in the dark there should a 65 indicator pop up around this area. And now we are at up slow, and we maybe think, okay, now we are on the line that we are supposed to end up. Here is actually the increase to 75, and now we can put the foot down and go with 75 all along, because until we get to Levenshulme we are on up slow and never changing anymore. With that thought will be interrupted with this signal coming up, where we are getting an indication that we're going to the left again. And why are we going to the left even though we are not changing from up slow to a different line? We will see that if we look at the layout of the train of the tracks later. And for that we already need to know we can't go faster than 45 here. And on the switch we will see a sign for that, but not before we get there. We also need to know from our track knowledge that we are going across two lines up to this point here, and then still further on a 45 until we get to this point, and now we're actually aligned on the correct line to Levenshulme, even though we probably could have just driven through. And this short introduction in the dark with the rain was supposed to show you that if you want to drive only according to signal indications without a HUD information, you need to know the layout of the station and the tracks and the lines, and what the theater indicators and the junction indicators, the feathers, are actually telling you. Here we are. And Sadri said, I'm surprised how much work there is to drive a train. One would think it is fairly well automated by now. A lot of the very modern trains have things like automatic train operations, yeah. But a lot of the infrastructure is still very 80s, and obviously it is all very prone to errors and mistakes. I suppose that because that is still so much old tech going around that can't work with modern stuff, says Sarith. Like Lofty says, if this was using ETCS, it'd be much easier to automate things because ETCS has much more knowledge. Yeah. On the other hand, then there is more that can go wrong. So, first impression at night, Levenshulme. Here it says so on the wall. And, yeah, it is my opinion that those stations and views into the cities and stations are really greatly done. So, let's check out how we can actually know the stuff. And for that, I want to start with the sectional appendix. The sectional appendix is a document that is issued by Network Rail, and where you can find a lot of information about the tracks that you are running on. So, for example, if you know that the route that we are on lives in the northern part of the London Northwestern sectional appendix, then you can actually find Manchester here. It is called Piccadilly. This is where we started, and then we went here towards Stockport, and we stopped here just behind Slade Lane Junction, where there is the junction for the trains to the airport. And then you can identify the line, and this NW5001 that ends up in Crewe at some point and comes from Manchester Piccadilly. So we can scroll down and find what is in our DLC. So not Crewe, but Alderley Edge is the first station, and then Wilmslow, Handforth, Cheadle, Hulme, and Stockport, and Heaton, Cheadle, and then Levenshulme, what we have just stopped at. And those diagrams here, that can be quite complicated, show you the layout of the track, like here at Manchester Piccadilly with the 1, 2, 3 through 14 positions where your train can stop at a platform and can be started. And then you can see what complicated web you can traverse until you get anywhere. Like, for example, like we did end up here at Levenshulme, position platform 1 on the Up Styal line. And to make this a bit easier to read, I made a presentation where I glued those segments together. And I will obviously show you that as soon as it has loaded. here we are. So this is the part in Manchester Piccadilly. This is the part that we ran through where one double line is branching off, and this is the part where we pass through the depot, and this is the part where we just ran across the other tracks and ended up here on the Up Styal line, and just outside of the picture there is Levenshulme where we just stopped. So this looks and there is this, I need to do a serious presentation with Thomas the engine, yeah, maybe about tank engines and what they are about, or what real locomotives are behind all the Thomas characters. Maybe at some point. At the moment I'm doing a serious presentation about the sectional appendix for the northern part of London Northwest and how we get from Piccadilly out. And if you look at all those figures here, they tell you the different speed limits, and those connectors show you where there are crossovers or other switches where you can get from one track to the other. And this part is what goes to Glossop and Hatfield, what is the other DLC that is already on the market, the Glossop line. This part is what goes to Stockport, what is more or less the main line that is also part of the West Coast main line, connecting Manchester here with Crewe and Stoke-on-Trent, for example. This is the branch that goes to the airport in Styal. And then there are two platforms at Piccadilly station that do not end at the station, but they are through and go on to a different station, Manchester Oxford Road. So where you can actually go on. And I actually tried to visualize the different speeds and use different colors, as you can see, for the different speeds that are used in this complex web of different lines and tracks. So the lines at the platforms are with a speed limit of 15 altogether, and you can see that there are more or less 4 platform lines that connect with the incoming lines from Glossop Hatfield and the ones from Stockport, more or less straight through without having to go across switches or anything. And other lines like the 2 and the 1 are more or less branching off at the station. Also the 8, so 1 through 8 are more or less connected to this, while as there are interconnectors, and 3 and 4 are the ones that directly connect to the lines that come from Glossop or go to Glossop. Whereas here in the middle, those lines 5 and 6, if you run just through them, you end up on Up Fast, or you come in from Up Fast here. So those are the fastest lanes and lines coming in and connecting to the station. In between you have an intermediate part where the speed is at 25 and where there are a lot of crossovers where you can sort out more or less the traffic into the different slots at the station. Then there are some more platforms, 9 to 12, that more or less all connect to this one port here that is then connected to the slow lines via this section here, or you can also connect it here with the 15 section to the part that comes from platform number 6. And here in this connection you can see that the slow line is linked in. This is the Up Styal. Up is always the direction that is going towards London, down is always the direction that is coming from London. Typically there is one up direction and one down direction, and here up is going towards Crewe, Stoke-on-Trent, London in the end, and down is going towards Manchester in our in our setup here. So here is the slow line or are the slow lines connected to. And here we can see the point where the up slow line, so the slow line that is leaving the station, is crossing through the two fast lines to end up on the other end, on the other side of the fast lines, whereas the incoming, and here you could branch off to Styal at the same point where this is going over. Here is a connector where you can also go from the up fast to the up slow, up slow line, whereas the slow line that is coming in is here enveloping or more or less the fast lines and then coming in here. So for this station we have a setup where the fast lines are next to each other and the slow lines are next to each other, because the slow lines then end up here on the through platforms that go on to Manchester Oxford Road, whereas at Levenshulme and on we need a setup where the slow lines are on the outsides and the fast lines are on the inside. This is why you sometimes have those situations where one of those lines are crossing through the other lines. And this is something that you need to know if you're running the up slow line, that at some point you have to do the crossing, otherwise there will be no way to end up on your proper line here. And here's the down line from Styal coming in and connecting to the slow line. To make it more complicated, if you're running out, there are some additional lines with specific functions. For example, in the middle here there is an engine siding line that has a very slow speed limit, but is in the middle of this bunch of tracks that you have to go through with a speed limit of 15, and where you are typically not run through. It is nice in the DLC actually that you can see that this line has a lot of scrubs on it, so you can see that it is not regularly used. More connectors are there, and then there are some goods lines sometimes connected in here alongside the yard and connecting everything. Here's an up and down goods line that can be used for freight trains with a slower speed to keep them out of the fast traffic on the regular, the fast and the slow line. And here on the other side is a line that is only a down goods line. And I've seen that some of the freight services that are coming from the south and going into Manchester are actually routed at this point onto the down goods line to keep them out of the way, what is nice. Then you need a lot of interconnectors with different speeds. And then there is even this little thingy here, the Mayfield goods loop, that is also a bit of a special thing, and a lot of paths that connect all this city radar. Yeah, I like how especially in Britain and also in the underground they use the cardinal direction to indicate the direction of the train on the platform, like westbound or northbound, as if we all had a compass with this. This designation would never ever be used here. Yeah, I actually like this because on my phone I have a map, and there I can see if I want to go to south or west or east or north, and if it tells me that it goes to this or that suburb, then I just have to figure out where that is and what direction I actually need. Anyway, so you can see we can color the different speeds. That makes it a bit easier to understand what's the speeds we have to adhere to when we are going on specific lines, but it is still quite confusing. And what do the signals do? They tell you the routing actually, and then you can know from the routing information where you will be sent within the block that is governed by the signal. So typically every platform track here has a signal with a theater indicator, indicated here with a red one for the outgoing traffic, that is giving you an information that is typically whether you're going east, whether you're going fast, or whether you're going slow, or whether you're going to the goods lane. And so you get an F, an S, an E, or a G, or sometimes different letters telling you the general routing here at this point. 9 through 12 have only one signal with a theater indicator, because they're all interconnected here and you cannot get out of platform 12 in a different way than through this choke point here. And sometimes it is necessary to have a second line of defense for those theater indicators, because the pathing might be more complicated. Here is another one on this little goods line, and then sometimes it is enough to have the junction indicators with the feather indicators, like with these signals here. So here are the green ones for the ingoing traffic, and the ingoing traffic, you typically have the number for the platform that you are going to end up, and with this you can figure out whether you're already headed to the proper position or whether you have to go across a lot of switches. So from the information that the theater indicators give you, F or S or G or 1 or 16 or 14, you should be able, with your route knowledge, to figure out if you go across switches and what is the speed limit on those switches. You will be reminded of the speed limit immediately before you enter the switch, but obviously you have to prepare for that. That is this, and yeah, there is another one at the end. And to make it a bit more translucent, let's see the general directions again. Up, down, east. Is this where I made yellow here? This is the connection to Glossop, and for that the theater indicators would show you an E for the east direction if you're actually sent here. Up, down, fast are those two lines that are connected in the center without anything that can hinder the progress of the train. Here we have the 90 limit quite soon, and later than the limit of 110 even. And the slow lines are the ones here, and with this effect that the up slow is changing to the outside of the two fast lines at this point, where there is also the junction where the up and down style lines connect to. And those two are up and down Oxford Road. Those are the only two lines that go through Manchester Piccadilly. All the other lines end at this point. And then to throw into the mix, there are the goods lines, like up and down goods up here, and only the down goods lines, where only this little section here of the track is for both directions. We have here, and then there is Mayfield goods loop. And with this information and this present, I find it a much more satisfying experience to go in and out of Manchester Piccadilly station, instead of just running along and looking on the hub what will be my next speed limit and where does it come from. But just to anticipate that if I'm routed at a certain point, I will go across two switches with a general limit of 25 or 30 or 15 or whatever, and what to expect. So it adds another level of immersion to the game and is not so super easy to understand, even though the general principle with the feather indicators is relatively easy to understand. So what did we do in our introductory service? We started at platform 5 with a limit of 15. We got an F at the theater indicator when leaving that. Then we went through this little spot with a 25 limit. Got to the signals here. Here we had a green signal without a theater indication. We went on, got into the 45, but knew that we were running up to a signal that at this point showed us an indication to the right. And we switched across that switch. So we knew as soon as we saw this signal, but we cannot go with 45, but have to slow down for the 25 for the switch here. And knowing the layout of the tracks here, we knew that we wouldn't go on this line after going across one switch, but then we would go along down fast the wrong direction. This is the track where the trains are coming in fast from Crewe, and obviously we can use it, and it is at this part at any rate signaled in both directions, but still you should be out of this line as fast as possible to not block the incoming trains. So we only have this little stretch here, and then we go across the next switch that has a higher limit, and then we end up on our up slow line that is here already at 65. This is why we did not get another indicator. And we in our mind connect with this indication here on the junction signal that we are going across two switches, the first with 25, the second with 30, and after that we can go on with 65. It increases to 75, but we have to be aware that we will be getting a junction indication here at this signal to go to the left, because we have to switch with the whole down south line, with the whole up south, with the whole up slow line to the other side of the fast lines to be able to stop at Levenshulme. Yeah, and so the whole thing can be played through. If you start at 4, for example, and you get an F indicator, then you know, even though you don't get a feather, that you will be routed across a switch at this point to actually end up on the up fast line that is indicated here. Otherwise, you would go in the wrong direction towards Glossop. And then you can progress along the fast line. If you are supposed to be routed to Glossop and start at 4, for example, you could start with the same indication, again a F indication for the fast line. That means you're going onto the fast line, and then at this point here, at this signal with a junction indicator, get sent over to the up east line towards Glossop and Hadfield. So for every signal, for every possible indication that can come up on the theater indicator or on the junction indicator, you should know your pathing and the associated speeds with it. Just another example, if you start on platform 13, for example, and get a G indicator, that means that you get sent to the Mayfield goods loop here. Goods. And then at this point you can have another theater indicator that is sending you to the slow line, for example. Then you know you will be routed that way. At this point, then you know where you're going, to Stockport or to Styal, and then this indication would send you to Styal. With a fast indication here, an F indicator for the fast line, you would know that you have to cross through the slow lines and the down fast lines to the up fast line before you can go there. And if you get an indication here, then you know you're going into the up and down goods line. And so with this presentation, it's almost a model that I built here in PowerPoint. You can trace and track all the different indications with the signals that they show you, and use the free roam feature to find out what weird indications they can send you to. Yeah. This, on the other hand, teaches you how complicated it is to implement larger stations and all the possible routings. Unfortunately, I do not have a signaling plan or a routing plan for the stations in the game. Otherwise, I could go through the whole thing here, but Probably this is not. What is super interesting to do this for hours. The gist is there, I think, and the principle is done. And I think this is... some people always say it is so easy to drive trains in the United Kingdom, where it is still a lot of knowledge that is connected with those signal indications. And now we're driving a train from Manchester to the airport. We will be coming back to the 323 for the sound of the GTOs a second time. But first, let's have a different train. The D0 350. That has... Oh, the presentation is still on. I'm sorry. Here we are. Thank you, CD Radar. Nothing happened so far. Do we still need to switch on lights? Yes, we know. Instrument desks, markers only, daylight. Here the signal is quite conventional, without any theater or junction indication. We're starting here on one of those through platforms, platform 13. General layout that we just saw on the diagram. Those two lines are up and down Oxford Road. Whereas here we see the platforms that all connect at this signal here. 1, 2, 3, 4 platforms over here. And our train is coming from Edinburgh, and for that we had to come in here through the Up Oxford Road line. This outside area of the station is modeled really nicely, in my opinion. Taxi stands and the whole Piccadilly station looks super cozy. Here, almost like at an airport. This is the connection, how you can get there from the other platforms to our through platforms. Some pendolinos in the central platforms, or at central platforms. 323 trains. And here the signals with the theater indicators. When they are red, obviously they are blank. Here double yellow, showing that this train will be routed to the slow line when started. This is probably even our train. If it has changed to green in the meantime, and it looks it has. Even the D0 is one of the trains, or you don't see that super much, because unlike on the network trains, your windscreen is rather smallish. IGBT sound. Theater indicator hardly visible, telling us that we're going on the slow line. And that will be the up slow, since we're going in this direction. We're starting here in a 20. Let's bring back the presentation once more to see the benefit of all that what we did before. And it is here, actually, this is where we're starting, the 20. And when we're going not into the goods line, but to the up slow, then we can just go ahead here, and we don't need to switch a lot. We just stay at 20 at this point, and then at some point we increase to 45. And with this layout in mind, we can roll through the 20 bit until we get to the 45. Looming. We are on up slow, where we belong. Now we are probably past the 45 sign. Same time we're passing the 65 sign. Express Sprinter with the Midlands livery is coming in. That's a great idea. Let's build high-speed railway lines and limit the speed on highways to, say, 90 kilometers per hour and one lane, so the train will always be faster than the car. That is a good thinking, I should say. So, on the left there is up and down goods alongside the depot. Here's our 75 increase for the slow line. Yeah, the Railberg, Rate Minister for Transport. And now, since we know where we are going to the airport and our route knowledge, we are not putting the foot down and accelerating crazily to 75. But know that we would either go to the right or to the left after this signal anyway, because the up slow line does not go on, and the signal is telling us we're going to the right towards Styal. And that is here. At this point, the limit increases to 75 again. And now we're rolling through all the stations on the Styal branch until we get to the airport. Oops. This power brake controller is a bit flimsy on this train. Especially in the brake range. Tap it a bit and you're putting in the brakes. I actually like the running sound of this 350, this Zero. This PIS information thing should run, should it not? Here's a dead section announced. Still have to find out if they are really working. Here we get the information that the speed limit will drop to 40. What is the junction to the airport? You can already see the junction signal. And here we go. 40 for the junction. If we are running late, we could accelerate here a bit to 50. Well, we're actually so early that we should rather slow down than accelerate. And here is the airport with the runways and the planes. Plop! Unfortunately not landing, but disappearing when they are getting closer to the Earth. Here is the home signal. Telling us where we are going. Platform 1. So that is the leftmost, if I'm not mistaken. Here it drops to 40 again, and then at the next bridge it will drop to 25. What is also the speed that is valid at the station. Here we can see it. Now we're approaching the thing that says "Welcome to Manchester Airport." And here we are. Manchester Airport. Also really nicely modeled.
Doors closing.
See if the lift works.
Footbridge. Doors opening. Lift going down.
Yeah, just let me get off. Airport area. With the skywalk. Alright, that is the airport. We're going back to driving a train. And for a change, we are running a Pendo home to Piccadilly. I think one of those should be good. London Euston to Manchester Piccadilly. Here we can see that it is not only a very short service, but part of The West Coast Main Line. This train is coming from London Euston Station and scheduled for a stop at Manchester. So, how does this train work again? Neutral is enough. On what side is the platforms? On the left. Then we need our safety thingies. Vigilance. And there is always the AWS fuse separately. Do we need lights? Yeah, tail lights are not good. Day running is okay. GMSR is on. And let's kick it. We're starting here with 25. Through the self-test. That is now done. Even though there is no tilting on this route. Look at this scenery from the viaduct. How detailed it is, even in the parts that are further away from the tracks. With all the bumpy start, that scenery is really great, and I hope this is where this game is going. We are now on the down fast line, in a part where they actually exist, because south of Stockport they merge, and then there is only one line for each direction. But we have still a 4-track section. Here on this track there used to be this giant anthill, but now it is no longer. I think we don't get the warning that our speed will drop to 75 past Levenshulme. So we have to figure this out ourselves. Here it is. Station where we just stopped when we were running at night. And here's the drop to 75. And at the same point here is, I will just stop and go into photo mode. One part in the track where you can see that creating a train track can actually get you into prison. This is the Up Fast. No, it's not the Up Fast line, it is the line that is switching over at this point. The Up Slow line. Whereas this here is the Up Fast line. And can you see the distance between those two tracks in this particular point? Even the sleepers are overlapping. There is a video of my ambassador colleague Tintin when he was running the direction that we are running here, and the Pendo came from the opposite direction and gave him a whack so that he derailed. So at this point you can actually hit a train that is coming from the opposite direction because the tracks are so close together that even the sleepers overlap. So careful with stuff like this. After this section here, the limit increases to 90. Slow down to 40, announced 65 now. I was obviously late now. The 65 is not announced, but the 40 is. And now I got an intervention, most probably from the overspeed sensor loop of the TPWS. I did not pay attention whether this one was justified or not. Or did I just yank my lever into emergency while I was looking out of the window? It wasn't possible. At any rate, we should be able to pick up our journey to Manchester Piccadilly. Should not stop me from looking out of the window. Double yellow here. 40 limit. Down fast. No theater indication. Keeping in mind that we have to slow down to 25. Soonish. Not right here yet, but at the next signals. where we get the single yellow and probably the information to what platform we are sent. Actually, there was an indication on the wharf signal. Don't know if you spotted it. Here, telling us that we are staying on the fast lane. And we're going to 7. That means we are going across one more switch. So we have to slow down probably to 15. Even before we reach the 15 area. Yep, and that is a switch that takes us from platform 6 to platform 7. '87 rail to services waiting. And here we are. And we arrived at Piccadilly. Here the rail to service. Sandwiching this train as it seems. Loco at the front, loco at the back. Yeah, they use the city of Manchester. Why would they use something else? Alright. And for the last service, I think we use the hyper networker again. And do one service along the line from Manchester Piccadilly to the end of the represented area. And we can also get more GTO sound. Let's see what is next. From Manchester Airport, no, Stockport to Manchester Piccadilly. Can I now have a bit of a longer service, Alderley Edge to Piccadilly via Stockport. Manchester Airport. Yes, that one fits the bill. Let's see. Altogether, the services are rather short. For that, you get a lot of services actually. Up fast. Starting on 4. Means we're going 1 to the right. We're not sent to the right. Staying on the fast line. So we actually can accelerate to the 45. And here at the junction towards Glossop is the 65. Connect us to the yard. The 90. But we will probably be sent to the left at the next signal, because otherwise we can't get to platform 1 in Levenshulme. So I was a bit early with my braking. At the next signal we should send to the left. We should get sent to the left, and this is what happens. So remember, this is the part where the up slow switches sides and comes over from the far right to the far left, and we are going this little connector here to the left from the up fast to the up slow line. Again, this part where the panel can give you a whack. And if we must, we can accelerate a bit before we prepare for the stop in Levenshulme. This time in broad daylight. Here we are. Scaffolding is the same. Chapel looks a bit different. The mural is obviously also the same. And on we go on the up slow. Heaton Chapel. Just recovered from the termite infestation, maybe. I really like those passages and the ways the passengers are coming, not just spawning out of the blue. Well, obviously they are spawning out of the blue, but can't really see where they are spawning out of the blue. Stockport, platform 1. That means we're getting a 20 limit when entering Stockport station. First we can accelerate, and on the viaduct we have to slow down a bit earlier than normal. On the fast line there is a limit to 75 here. For us it is not really a slowdown to 75. Now we're on the viaduct soonish. Here on the viaduct proper. With the pyramid in the background. Now I have to prepare for the stop and slow down to 20 just past the signal. Hey, Spinner Tornado 94, nice to see you. I hope you're doing well and things are all right at your place. The new route is great scenery-wise. It is a bit short. It has many different trains if you have all the other DLCs that are layering into. It offers a lot of immersion after the first box and the bumpy release was over and done with. Soonish, I think we will have some more American content again after the HSP46 has been released. Ah, you got called to a big session in a Run 8 train simulator, I see. I understand. Cheadle Hulme. Don't forget we're still in a 15 miles limit here. Now we're getting some rain, who would have thought? Now we got to pull our hyper network out of this 15 miles limit. Now we can at least go 40 again. And somewhere on our way to Hulme, there will be the part where the slow and the fast lines merge. Spinner Tornado says it was in the 24/7 server of Run 8. A high priority intermodal train was ready to go from Bakersfield to LA, so that was a very long, 400-mile long trip. The map size is mind-boggling. Well, that sounds really impressive. If you can go 400 miles without stopping. Or without having to actually jump from one map into the other. So am I still in a 40 limit here, or did it increase already? Oh, it increased, I did not see. So here's the point where the fast and the slow line merge. And at the same part the limit increases. To a speed that is irrelevant for us because our train cannot go faster than 90 at anyways. And we have to stop in 0.6 miles. It is, he says, I had to go through the Tehachapi pass, then Cajon pass, so it was difficult. Oh yeah. One wrong move with a throttle or brake and you would rip a coupling right off. Yeah. You can break couplings in this game, right? So I guess you made it anyway and did not break anything. So now we are early, even though we went slower than it was allowed. Thank you for traveling with Northern. Yeah, he says we made it successfully. Cajon Pass had tons of player traffic from both BNSF, Union Pacific and Amtrak, so navigating the pass with all the player traffic was stressful. I get it. Even stressful in this game to navigate Cajon Pass. And we can't break any couplers here.
Personally belonging to you at all times. Any unattended baggage will be removed and may be destroyed by security services.
Destroyed. Sorry guys. It is time to close the doors and leave. Handforth. Bonk. Camera was kicked off. Though when approaching Barstow, dispatch did stop me with a red for a while because apparently a train ahead of me impacted a car at a crossing and went into an emergency stop in response. Ouch! Well, that sounds really interesting, what can happen in this game. In the game here we just drive through the cars if they fail to stop in front of the level crossing and nothing happens. So, preparing to stop at Handforth. So when we just came through this little tunnel here, I don't know exactly what they did, but it really lives. Looks very cozy, the scenery. At Handforth. See the radar. Oh, I just found out that the highest mountain in Germany is called Zugspitze. The resemblance to the train is coincidental. Yes, and it's actually quite close to Garmisch-Partenkirchen station. From there is a special railway that can take you there. Zugspitzbahn. In der Wettersteingebirge. It's been to notice says I play on the Depot Plus server, which is where all the pros are. You gotta go through a vigorous training before you're even granted access to the server. Most of the people in the Plus server are either super good at the game or are active or retired railroad employees somewhere on the US network. Yeah, I guess this is if you want to do it the hardcore way. Well, congratulations that they accepted you on the server. Wilmslow. Here's where the line from the airport is coming in. Limit drops to 100 on this viaduct. But it does not impede us too much. Layout of the station is such that it more or less is built into the junction. Pair of tracks for one part and the other pair of tracks for the other line. Wilmslow. It's also a great thing that you have signage that makes sense at the station. Not just something like default signage. But signs that actually show you the way. Where things are, platforms and commodities. Alright, and the next station is already Alderley Edge. And the rain did not stop in our blue sky. Limit increases back to 110. For us, nothing to write home about. Double yellow. Already announcing the stop at Alderley Edge. Now we have to slow down a bit so that no overspeed sensor loop. Trips us. And here we are, 2 seconds early. Apart from that, just according to the timetable. Yeah, that is the station at Alderley Edge. The train will leave here. Will be taken to crew with a different crew.
Safety announcement. Due to
Please know with me.
please take extra care whilst on the station. Surfaces may be slippery.
Well, for whatever reason it does not leave, probably because I left the door open. Or because I left the safety systems on. At any rate, the train does not leave. Not my problem anymore. Now it goes. Now it goes without a driver even. Alright. Guys, that's it. That is Alderley Edge. And at the same time, the end of today's stream. I hope my endeavor to work into the system of pausing at a busy railway station like Manchester Piccadilly got something for you, and we will meet again soon. I will let you know when the next stream will be scheduled. So far, thanks for bearing with me and working through the Manchester Airport Community DLC. Be nice to each other. Take care. Have a good time. Bye bye.